We've all seen the numbers, right? A
Yeah.
startup kicks off in a garage, maybe just selling one thing, and then boom, decades later, it's like dominating global commerce, logistics, even cloud stuff. We're talking Amazon, obviously. And that jump from a simple online bookshop to this absolute giant.
It really is the ultimate story of, well, explosive growth.
Yeah.
And if you dig into the DNA of a venture like Amazon, you have to
Wow.
figure there's a specific set of decisions, philosophies that drove that scale. It definitely wasn't just luck. It had to be strategy.
And that strategy is exactly what we're unpacking for you today. We've been digging into an in-depth review of Jeff Bezos' book, Small Business, Big Growth. And this isn't just him reminiscing, right? It's framed as a practical guide, sharing lessons from, like, day one of Amazon.
Exactly. The book really lays out these crucial strategic moments, these pivots needed for rapid but also sustainable growth. So our mission here is to pull out those core insights, things like the simplicity of the starting idea, their, let's say, unique take on customer focus, and that willingness to embrace just enormous risk. We want to give you a kind of shortcut to understanding what Bezos himself sees as the secrets behind that massive transformation.
Okay, let's get into it then. We kind of have to start by setting the scene. We're talking the early 1990s.
Right. The internet was, well, it was there, but it wasn't everywhere like now.
And people were seriously skeptical about buying things online. Handing over credit card details to some website felt risky.
Oh, absolutely. It was a tough environment for e-commerce. Definitely not trusted by default, which makes the simplicity of Bezos' starting point so interesting. He didn't try to build the everything store right away. Amazon just started as an online place selling books on.
Okay, but hold on. Starting simple. How is that a growth strategy? I mean, normally you think you need something complex, something different to stand out, right? What does Bezos say about why simple worked?
Well, he argues pretty strongly that success really hinged on keeping that initial idea incredibly simple and then executing it flawlessly. Books were kind of the perfect product for this. They're standardized. A copy of a specific novel is the same no matter where you buy it.
Ah, okay. So they didn't have to worry about variations in quality for the same item.
Exactly, which meant Amazon could pour all its energy into just two things: convenience and selection. Get the experience right, not worry about, is this widget well made?
So that simplicity let them nail the fundamentals. And crucially, build trust with customers before things got way more complicated.
Precisely. Build that foundation of reliability first. Then you can gradually expand the scope, add more products. Once people trust, you'll deliver. It was very deliberate, a focused start.
Okay, so they start simple, build trust. Now let's get to the core of it. The big growth part, because, going from shipping paperbacks to running this global logistics empire and, oh yeah, controlling a huge chunk of the internet's infrastructure, that doesn't just happen. What were the real strategic pillars here?
Yeah, it's a huge leap. We can probably synthesize it down to, say, 4 core principles that really drove that exponential growth, and they were quite distinct.
All right, let's take them one by one. Principle number 1, this relentless focus on the customer. Now, everyone says they focus on the customer. How did Amazon actually operationalize that? What made it different?
For Amazon, it seems, this wasn't just a marketing slogan. It was like a fundamental rule guiding every single business decision. It really boiled down to 3 main things: massive selection, making it incredibly easy, convenient, and keeping prices consistently low. But the key difference, which the sources really emphasize, was their long-term thinking.
Meaning, they were okay with losing money in the short term.
Absolutely. That seemed to be the core of it. The rule was the customer comes first, even if that means sacrificing immediate profits. Think about decisions like offering free shipping way back when. That was often costly for them initially. Or deliberately taking losses on certain products. The goal was to train customers. Amazon equals lowest price, always. That commitment to customer value, even over short-term shareholder returns, especially in the early years, is what fueled that rapid adoption.
Okay, that makes sense. And it leads directly into the next point, doesn't it? Principle 2.
Right.
Accepting massive risk and fostering innovation. Because, let's face it, putting off profits for years, that's a huge risk for any business.
A critical one. Bezos is reported to constantly emphasize not fearing failure, always pushing for innovation. And that inherently means taking calculated, sometimes really bold risks. Remember the one-click patent?
Yeah, seems obvious now, but...
But back then, making checkout that simple was revolutionary. Dedicating resources to patenting that specific bit of customer-focused tech, that was a strategic risk. They were betting on convenience paying off.
And the sources highlight something important here, too. Even when Amazon was losing a lot of money and they were in the red for years, Bezos insisted that innovation was the path forward. He was apparently laser focused on market share and customer loyalty, not the quarterly earnings reports.
Right. That risk-taking, combined with that long-term vision, that was fundamental. They were essentially betting the entire company that the customer habits they were building, that loyalty, would eventually pay off big time, maybe decades later.
Yeah.
Not many CEOs have the stomach for that, frankly, which is why it stands out so much.
And of course, if you're taking huge risks, you're going to have some big failures. Which brings us nicely to principle 3, learning from setbacks.
Yeah, this is crucial. Setbacks aren't roadblocks. They're basically data points, opportunities to learn and grow. Bezos apparently talks quite openly in the book about various financial and strategic mess-ups early on. Things like major inventory problems, early attempts to expand into new categories that just didn't work out profitably at first.
So instead of seeing those as we failed, it was, what did this teach us?
Exactly. He seemed to view these failures not as proof the strategy was wrong, but as essential learning moments that forced them to make necessary adjustments. Adapt or die, basically.
That mindset, seeing failure as fuel, not a dead end, that seems absolutely vital to keep innovating at that pace.
Totally. If they'd stopped and licked their wounds after every loss, they wouldn't have lasted. Instead, they learned quickly, integrated the lesson, and kept moving. Which brings us to the fourth principle. Continuous progress, moving way, way beyond just selling books.
Right, this is the big one. How do you connect selling books to, I don't know, offering cloud computing services? That's a massive leap conceptually.
Well, in Bezos' view, it seems, a successful business has to always be innovating, always improving. It can't stand still. So Amazon quickly moved past just books, started offering all sorts of other products. But the really critical shift, the technological bridge, that happened around the early 2000s.
Okay, tell us about that. What happened then?
Well, think about it. As Amazon's own retail operations got bigger and bigger, their internal tech teams had to build incredibly powerful, scalable, reliable systems just to keep the website running, especially during peak times, and manage this huge inventory. They basically had to build for themselves one of the world's best, most efficient internal technology platforms just to serve their own retail needs.
Ah, I see where this is going. And then they had a light bulb moment and realized that platform itself could be a product.
That's the genius pivot, exactly. The infrastructure they built to run Amazon retail smoothly, the ability to rent out server capacity, storage, computing power on demand. It was so advanced, so useful. They realized other businesses would pay to use it too. And that was the birth, almost accidental but highly strategic, of Amazon Web Services, AWS. Suddenly, it wasn't just about selling stuff online. It was about thinking of the company as a technology platform first and a retailer second.
Wow, okay, that completely reframes the story. The continuous progress wasn't just adding like clothes and electronics. It was taking the tech they mastered internally and selling that.
Precisely. Turning an internal necessity into a massive external advantage. That constant drive for improvement, regardless of what they were originally selling, is why they blew past being just an online bookstore to become the diversified tech giant they are today.
Okay, so we've got the principles, the blueprint. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about the book itself, Small Business, Big Growth. If someone's thinking about starting a business or trying to grow one, what's the value they get from reading this today?
Well, on a purely motivational level, it's apparently very high. It uses Bezos' own stories, the founding struggles, to really clearly show how things like confidence, taking calculated risks, and sheer determination can lead to success. It makes the whole daunting process feel a bit more achievable.
You know, and the writing style helps too, I gather. The sources mentioned it's pretty straightforward, conversational.
Yeah, thankfully. It avoids a lot of the dense academic jargon you sometimes find in business or management books. It makes the core ideas much more accessible, especially for people new to the whole entrepreneurial world.
Okay, but we also need to be balanced. What's the main critique of the book that the source material points out?
Right, the critical nuance. While it's definitely inspirational, the book apparently sometimes focuses very heavily on the outcome, the eventual success, and maybe tends to gloss over some of the really specific, granular, maybe painful details of the challenges Amazon faced, especially in those tough early years.
So it highlights the lessons learned from the struggles, but perhaps smooths out just how difficult, how uncertain things really felt at the time.
That seems to be the gist of the critique. It might make success look a little more inevitable in hindsight than it probably felt to the people living through those loss-making years. But, and this is the important part, despite that retrospective polish, the core operational messages, particularly around customer focus and relentless innovation, are still seen as incredibly valuable. They offer a kind of timeless framework, really, for any business trying to compete today, especially online.
Okay, that brings us right to the application for you, the listener. If Bezos proved that even a simple idea can explode into huge success, but only through consistent strategy, what are maybe the top three things you should focus on right now?
Okay, three takeaways. First, start with simplicity. Don't try to boil the ocean on day one. Focus on one thing, one product, one service, one process that you can absolutely nail. Execute it perfectly to build that initial trust.
Makes sense. Number two.
Number two, internalize that relentless customer focus. And I mean really internalize it. Identify the biggest friction point for your customers right now. Is it price, selection, convenience, delivery speed? Then dedicate real resources to fixing that specific problem, even if it means delaying some immediate profit.
Think long-term loyalty.
Okay, simplicity, customer focus. What's number three? Number three, embrace calculated risk. Don't be afraid to try things that might not work. Actively identify the important risks you're currently avoiding because you're scared of failure. And crucially, reframe failure. If you learned something valuable from an experiment that didn't pan out, it wasn't really a failure, it was just expensive market research.
Right. So the real challenge then is putting this into practice. Are you, listening now, ready to potentially shift focus, maybe away from just hitting this quarter's numbers, towards building that long-term value by truly meeting customer needs and constantly pushing to innovate? Because that, according to Bezos, is what defines big growth.
Exactly. The lessons we've unpacked today, starting simple, that radical customer obsession and being fearlessly innovative, that's the roadmap. It really shows that strategic thinking isn't just about managing growth, it's about actively creating it.
So maybe the question to leave you with today is this. What's one critical business decision you're making right now, based mostly on short-term gain? And what would change if you viewed it through the lens of long-term customer loyalty and trust, even if it's, well, painful in the short run? What's that one big necessary risk you know you should probably take but haven't yet?